This video contains strong language used in a funny context. Viewer discretion advised.
Well, it seems that we've had a very interesting journey in our terms of reviews. So I think as a special, I'm going to do something I haven't done for a good while. I'm going to do a countdown. Now, this countdown is going to be interesting because there's going to be some topics in this that are going to be very cringing to me and cringing to others. So, here's the situation. When I was a child, and I played a lot of old school games, there was some games that were really good, some that were okay, some that were bad, and some that were like, wow, really? So, this countdown is going to be some of those games where they're both bad and cringing at the same time. Now, this is going to be a countdown I've never done before because I'm going to be doing 2 countdowns in one video. Allow me to explain. I'm going to be talking about the worst games I ever played in terms of 80s games and 90s games, and as a special bonus, I'm going to be talking about games I played in the year 2000 and up to now that were considered bad and not really worth my time or anybody else's time ever in their life. But here's another catch for you. When it comes to games I played that were 80s games and 90s games, there will be some games that will be tied for that number. So, to some of my subscribers, they will love to hear about those reasons why, but to some people, they will probably complain saying, why couldn't you just made a top 10 list of these games? I'm going to explain that right now. I could have done a top 10 of the worst games I ever played that were 80s and 90s games, but that would have been too easy for me. Some of the games I've played are so bad, they're literally as bad as other games I've played. That's why they will be tied for certain numbers. And people that know me very well will know why I tied those games at certain numbers. But enough beating around the bush, enough BS and stalling. Oh, let's get straight into this little countdown mess of debauchery that I have made. So, let's dive right on in. Silver Surfer, probably the only so-called okay game on this list. Just simply because I don't like the gameplay styles of Silver Surfer, the fact that if you get hit once, you're out, and the fact that the control schemes are absolutely wacky. The reason why Silver Surfer would be number 5 on this list and not anywhere close to 1 is because, well, it just simply isn't that bad of a game. I guess you could say it's mostly just the physics that like to mess with the players. So, yes, number 5 would be Silver Surfer. First things first, number 4 is actually a tie between Swamp Thing and Barbie. Basically, I don't like Swamp Thing because of the physics of the game, and the fact that just trying to get past the first level could automatically make you rage in a way that would turn you into the Incredible Hulk. Swamp Thing itself is just an abomination of a game, and I never recommend anybody with a short fuse of a temper to actually play this game. But tied with Swamp Thing is Barbie. Barbie was supposed to be a game made for girls that were into the NES because, well, yeah, there was a lot of neutral titles and a lot of male stereotypical titles for the NES. And Barbie has really bad physics as well. The music's interesting. And why would you want to play as a Barbie doll that's dreaming, and the game is basically all of her dreams that she has. So, yeah, number 4, it would actually be a tie between Swamp Thing and the really bad graphic, bad thing that we would have to call Barbie. Number 3 would actually be another tie between Back to the Future for NES and Friday the 13th. To people that know me very well, know that sooner or later I was going to be talking about Back to the Future and Friday the 13th. The two games that made me go absolutely insane the first time I played them on my channel. When I played Back to the Future the first time on my channel, I literally thought about going to get therapy after that. And with Friday the 13th, I literally had to take a sabbatical from YouTube for about 2 weeks because that game absolutely destroyed my mentality whatsoever. Back to the Future itself is a confusing game because, one, the character you play as doesn't look anything like Marty McFly from the movies, and there's just stuff that goes on in this game that you kind of wonder what they were trying to pinpoint at. Friday the 13th, well, what's there to really say about this game that already hasn't been said by many people? Besides the fact that Jason looks like a guy in a purple jumpsuit that he just doesn't look like Jason. And the fact of the different weapons that you use in the game, you start off with a rock and you're, one of the camp counselors. You can switch between camp counselors as well later on down the way in the game. And just the aspects of, Friday the 13th and Back to the Future, they both made me go absolutely insane, so why not put both of them in the tied spot for number 3? So, number 3 would go to Back to the Future and Friday the 13th. The number 2 spot would go to 3 games that made me wonder why the hell I was ever going to play these ever in my life. The first one would be Action 52. Action 52, an NES cartridge that was set at $200, if I'm not mistaken, to be bought right when it came out. It had 52 games, and all 52 of them completely sucked ass, especially Cheetah Man, which was the 52nd game on the cartridge, and it was like the star of the show. And the star of the show did not do very well. And I did a review on Action 52 recently, but in the past I did play Action 52 for one of my old channels, but it wasn't up, so why not turn the experience into a review? So, yeah, there's Action 52. The next game that would be tied with number 2 would be Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. How is this abomination a game? I don't understand why this was even made into a game. It was for the 3DO, and it just was one of the most interesting games ever, because, for one, things just didn't add up right in the game. The pictures were terrible. The concept of the game was bad, and you really wondered to yourself how this was ever turned into a game. So, yeah, then that was Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Then there's Superman 64, which is also tied with the number 2 spot. Superman 64, which was a game I played for Spades Let's Plays. And it was a game that scarred me for life in terms of the fact if there was ever going to be a good Superman game ever to be made in this existence on the planet Earth. Superman 64. Basically, you're playing as Superman and trying to save your friends while going through rings and doing random missions that have nothing to do with the fact that you are Superman. Yeah. And even completing this game is not even worth it, because just the ending itself is controversial to me. No spoilers, but yes, number 2 is going to have to be a 3-way tie between Action 52, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, and Superman 64. Now, for number one, it is going to be a two-way tie, and people that know me very well will understand why, and people watching at home will learn why. Where's Waldo is a game I recently reviewed, and it was a game that made me want to switch between being an NES person to a Sega Genesis person. Luckily, I didn't listen to my conscience that day, and I played much more better NES games since Where's Waldo. Where's Waldo was basically started off as a book, then it turned into a television series, and then people decided they wanted to turn this abomination to a fucking game where you're trying to find this striped shirt wearing motherfucker that, you know, just wants to hide from everybody. I mean, I've heard of social anxiety, but what the fuck is this? But yeah, there's Where's Waldo. And then the most famous Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where you're playing as Dr. Jekyll trying to get to his wedding, and you have people shooting slingshotted stuff at you, punching you, leaving bombs, rabid dogs, psycho cats, and Lord knows what else that will be in your way. And if you get hit a certain amount of times, you will turn into Mr. Hyde, where you will basically be playing the level backwards. And the simple fact that the Mr. Hyde part of the game actually feels like a fucking video game. But when you're playing as Dr. Jekyll, you're armed with a cane, and the cane don't do fucking shit whatsoever. And this is a game that is tied with Where's Waldo because of the simple fact that it has made me go mental in ways that not even Friday the 13th and Back to the Future ever did. Because it started something in my brain that will always turn me into a completionist. I have beaten Where's Waldo. I have beaten Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And still to this day, I'm never going to be satisfied with it. I'm never going to be satisfied with Where's Waldo and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But they're polar opposites of each other. Would I ever play Where's Waldo again? No. Never on a long shot. Never ever in my fucking life will I ever play Where's Waldo again. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, however, I learned so much new things about that game that makes me wonder if I can beat the game in a better way than I did before. Even though I hate both of these games, and they're both the worst games I've ever played in the 80s and 90s, Where's Waldo and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde will always be in that dark part of my brain that makes me want to get sucked up into these two games and want to brutally beat the living hell out of both Waldo and Dr. Jekyll. So, number one is tied with Where's Waldo and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, now we're going to get into the year 2000. Okay, Batman Dark Tomorrow. This was a game that I was pranked to play when I was growing up in school. And people were telling me, oh, this is going to be the greatest game you ever play. What better Batman game than a third person? Well, booted up the game. I thought that the cutscenes were not that bad starting off. And just the whole start of the game was nice. But then the game started, and I was like, what the hell is this? With the really messed up physics of the game, to the wacky controls, and the fact that Batman just looks like he's trying to find a toilet to go take a shit in. Batman Dark Tomorrow was really bad, and I couldn't stand it, and that's why this is number 5 on my list. So number 5 is going to Batman Dark Tomorrow. Now this is strictly opinion, but I cannot stand Resident Evil 5. Basically, it takes all the bad things from Resident Evil 4 and escalates it by tenfold. I couldn't stand when I played it. I own the game, but I've only played it a few times. I have never played this game for my YouTube channel, and I'm never going to. The only good thing about Resident Evil 5 to me is the fact that Albert Wesker is in the game. Aside from that, and just too many enemies on the screen to just messed up AI. I've had a lot of bad experiences with Resident Evil 5, worse than Resident Evil 4, which is why Resident Evil 4 is not on this list, but Resident Evil 5 to me is worse, because also if it wasn't for Resident Evil 4 we wouldn't have Resident Evil 5, and I believe that Resident Evil 5 should have had something completely different for its plot than just reusing some of the plot stuff from Resident Evil 4, like El Gigante and all the different enemies. Yeah, they had their own, even though the Los Ganados in Resident Evil 4, it's just been an escalated version of that for Resident Evil 5, which are the villagers of the village in Resident Evil 5. But all in all, I know people will not like the fact that I put this game on the list, but I've had nothing but bad experiences with Resident Evil 5. And to me is one of the worst Resident Evil games I've played. There is one that is worse, and that actually takes the spot of number 3. Resident Evil Gaiden. Where should I start with this game? Aside from the fact that I played this game around the time that it came out in the year 2001, when I had my Game Boy Color back in the day. I thought this game was going to be really good. I saw the case of the game, it had Leon Kennedy on it, and I thought to myself, wow, this is going to be an amazing game. Far from it. This game stars Leon S. Kennedy and Barry Burton. That's all you really need to know about the game, because the rest of it is really bad, from the battle system to even the story of the game. This is the one Resident Evil game that Resident Evil fans to this day do not talk about, want to forget about, and don't ever want to play, because it doesn't ever need to be played, because it is an abomination to the Resident Evil franchise. So, number 3 is going to be Resident Evil Gaiden. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, a game that was hyped up completely before its release. Had really good trailers, had some nice gameplay footage for the trailers. It was an overhyped game. When it came out, however, it had so many problems and so many bugs that people have dubbed Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 as the worst Sonic game ever created. And I have played this game. I have survived this game. It has a very bland story. It has bugs in it where you can actually glitch through walls and die. Sometimes things will happen in the game where you cannot complete the level because something will literally glitch out and you just cannot complete the level. To just many other mistakes that are in it. And plus, at the same time, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, in my opinion, has some of the worst dialogue in any Sonic game. And plus, I believe that this game could have done a bit better if they would have gotten away from the stupid little side quests and all the interactions that you would do in the game. So, that's basically it in a nutshell. I could talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 for hours, but this is a countdown. So, number 2 would go to Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. But what is worse than Sonic the Hedgehog 2006? Well, a lot of people that know me very well knew that this was coming. A game that was postponed for many years. A game that had so much hype back in the day until it faded from existence. And then a new trailer came out with remade graphics, and people were hyped about it because they were finally going to get the game that we waited Lord knows how many years for. But when it came out, it was the complete opposite of what we were expecting. Duke Nukem Forever was supposed to be a great game to come out for not only new generation people to get into the Duke Nukem franchise, but for the actual fans of Duke Nukem to actually be able to say to themselves and to their friends, I played Duke Nukem Forever. I beat Duke Nukem Forever. This game, however, is an abomination. This is basically what I would call the story of a man that's still living in the shadow of his former self. Duke Nukem Forever is considered one of the worst games I have ever played because of the simple fact that I am a Duke Nukem fan. I love even the side-scrolling Duke Nukem games before Duke Nukem went 3D in a way and, became the gun-wielding, babe-loving, steroid-taking son of a gun that people remember to be Duke Nukem. Now, the reason why I don't like Duke Nukem Forever, because I feel that the game doesn't really know what kind of game it wants to be. Does it want to be a driving game? Does it want to be a puzzle game? Does it want to be a, mini game? Does it want to be a first-person shooter? I don't know. I didn't like the game. There are some people that actually like this game, but it's like a small percentage of them. But to me, Duke Nukem Forever is considered one of the worst games I have ever played in the years of 2000 and up. So, yeah, fuck Duke Nukem Forever. Just stick to Duke Nukem 3D and Duke Nukem 64. Just letting people know, before I end this video, that this was a video that was requested by many people. Many. And I'm going to shout out a few of them before I end this video. One of them being Crazy Sean DX, another being Killer Rodan, another being Air Force, another being the Badger Show himself. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for literally taking some time out of your day to see these abominations that completely scarred my mind to this particular time of existence of my life. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this special, and please stay tuned for the next review because it will be a very good one. So, see everyone later.